I'm Ben Stiles. I'm now 33 years old. Myself and my two younger brothers have a condition called Spondyloepiphyseal Dysplasia Tarda. Basically, it causes arthritic wear and tear of the long bones in the body, particularly on the growth plates. As I was getting older, the condition was getting worse and worse. Moving was more painful, and obviously it slowed me down a lot, and I was becoming progressively worse until I actually went onto crutches at the age of 13, which was very hard to deal with because obviously losing your mobility is always going to be hard, but it was particularly hard at a young age. We spent an awful lot of time going across the country trying to find a diagnosis firstly and also a solution. So I was left with the prospect of probably spending my whole life on crutches as far as I was aware. As I was getting older, I guess it was getting progressively worse and worse from the point of view that I was possibly becoming slower whilst the children around me were becoming faster. At the end of the day, I would be in a situation where I was in that much pain that sometimes I literally couldn't move. This was incredibly unsuccessful, very depressing for me because basically the answer I would get was no. Quite a lot of specialists looked at me and thought, I was always under the impression that they looked at me and thought, you're not that bad, because there'd be somebody beside me in a wheelchair completely twisted up, and relative to them I wasn't that bad, but to me it was a really big deal and had a massive impact on my life. We stopped looking for an answer when I was about 13. I accepted the fact that I was on crutches. I didn't like it, but that's the way it was. I was thinking, as I grow up I'm going to be disabled, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to always be like that, or if it was going to get better, or if it was going to get worse, I'd end up in a wheelchair. I didn't know. I went in to see Mr. Gee at the Princess Elizabeth Orthopaedic Centre. Within 5 minutes he told me, this is what's wrong with you, I'll give you a hip replacement and you'll be able to walk. And I said, yeah, right. I didn't believe him. I'd always sort of looked at the future as I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life. So obviously having the hip replacement done and losing the crutches and being able to walk along hands-free is absolutely fantastic. It's changed my life beyond all recognition. My personal experience of the MedTech industry has been fantastic. I mean, they've given me new hips and I can walk. My experience of surgeons and consultants throughout my life, especially as a child, I'd say to them as a patient, I often felt that I was looked at as a piece of meat and prodded and poked by a room full of registrars and a consultant, and that's very unpleasant. However, teaching these people to be able to do the things they do, I'm not complaining about that because it's fantastic. It's turned my life around. Life's much bigger now than it was before. Whatever you want to do in life, we can get out there and do it now. Without the hips, it just wasn't a possibility. I can walk along holding my girlfriend's hand, which is so much a simple pleasure, but to me that's a really big thing. I can stand up and have a drink in a pub and walk around with a pint in my hand, which is fantastic because you can't do that on crutches. It can affect any joints. It affected my hips the worst possible. There was a hell of a lot of pain there. It made it very difficult to walk, difficult to move. Later on it started to affect my knees, my ankles, my shoulders, my elbows and my wrists. So you guys who are watching, perhaps you get me some of those as well, please.